Hey, everybody. I'm Lisa Campion, and this is the Miracle of Healing. So glad that you're here today. And I'm very excited to introduce you to a kindred spirit of mine. Today we have Rose Wippich. She is a Reiki Master Teacher, certified qigong and yoga instructor, and what she calls an energy alchemist. I love that. And she spent years in the corporate world managing multi-million dollar projects before life cracked her open, as it so often does. After losing her mother and then facing her own breast cancer diagnosis at age 49, Rose experienced a profound spiritual awakening that completely transformed how she approaches healing, aging, and what it means to step into your own power, especially for women. Rose is the author of a beautiful new book called Empress Rising, Own Your Energy, Trust Your Wisdom, and Rewrite the Rules of Aging. I'm all for that, where she really invites women to throw away society's limiting narratives about getting older and claim instead what she calls the Empress years. We're going to upgrade the term crone to Empress, and I'm like, sign me up for that. She's also the host of a top-rated podcast called Chat Off the Mat, and was just recognized as one of the top 50, over 50 podcasters. So congratulations on that and your amazing book. And welcome to the show, Rose.
Oh, thank you so much, Lisa. I am so honored to be here with you. This is great.
Yeah,
thank you.
So glad to be with you again.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about your story. I mean, we just kind of briefly glanced over it, but it's a very cool story. And I always like to start these conversations with understanding a little bit more about where you've come, your own journey, and how you got to be where you are now.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for that. Well, I would say that I believe my spiritual journey really started after my mom passed away. I was about 27 years old and she was 49, so she was young. After that, I really didn't have a female role model. And I struggled with things like maturity, relationships, not having someone there to guide me along the path. And I made some unfortunate decisions in my relationships that led to a lot of heartbreak and a lot of, let's say, trying to find my way back to myself. Unfortunately, I was able to do that. And I started to practice more meditation and yoga. Yoga was very integral in healing in my life. I had a lot of joint pain and a lot of stress in my body that I was experiencing. And I was intuitively guided to start a yoga practice. And 30 years ago, you couldn't find yoga anywhere except driving far. And there's one little class that this woman had. And I went to it regularly and faithfully, and it changed my life. And she also, I thought about this later as I was writing about this in my book. She was probably sent to me by my mother as a maternal or female divine feminine guide that I needed but never had. Yeah. It's just actually, so cool. Yeah. So she was able to guide me in directions like, spiritual paths, teachings, books. Back then she was like the internet, right? Because we didn't have the internet. We didn't even have these kind of books in libraries. So yeah, right. So she introduced me to Ayurveda and others in the class as well. Holistic healing and all these things just lit me up. And I was like, wow. And Reiki. She was like, what's Reiki? And she introduced us to what the concept was. So I was just like blown away by all these things. And it resonated with me so much. It was almost as if I was coming home to a lot of these things that were so buried inside me, maybe even from past lives. And I found a lot of healing in this. I really worked hard at overcoming a lot of, let's say, core wounds that I think a lot of us have. Yeah. And I eventually went on to become a Reiki practitioner, Reiki master, a yoga teacher at the age of 55, and a qigong teacher later on after that. So as the years went by, I just became, I don't know, more aligned with what I needed to do in my life.
Yeah. That's amazing. I love that so much. And your book and a lot of your work is really about this concept of the Empress, which is a concept I love so much. Empress Rising is the name of your book. Own your energy, trust your wisdom, and rewrite the rules of aging. And I just always had kind of a like of the crone, mother maiden crone, because I'm definitely past the mother stage, but I can't quite own the crone. Like I don't feel like I'm 100% there yet. And I like, people have talked about queen energy, and you bring in the idea of the empress, which also, because I have been studying the tarot for my whole life, really appreciated your nod to the tarot, the card, the Empress. So let's talk a little bit about what the Empress archetype is, and and what it means to us as women.
Yeah. So I've always loved that archetype. And I feel that it means someone who is just regal in her standing. She's authoritative in her own right. She sits on her thrones and looks at over her kingdom, full of abundance. Everything that she's ever done in her life, whether it's things that were good and plentiful, or maybe things that she had a hard time trying to overcome, but she did it, and she's has this energy that speaks to just being powerful in her own right. And um, I really connected strongly with that archetype as well, not really accepting the crone because I feel I'm not there as well. So this just came to me. It was almost like channeled, this connection to this empress, and using this as a almost like a rebranding of sorts,
Yeah.
and writing about it. And when I started to feel more connected to this archetype, I just started to write more and more about it. And I
Mm.
felt this is how people or women should feel when they are transitioning out of motherhood. And even if they haven't had children, it's just this phase of their life that they're maybe retired, or want to do something different other than what they used to do. And you can. You can own your energy and rewrite the rules, not just the rules that society has placed on us, but also the rules or the limitations that we've placed on ourselves, which a lot of
Mm.
women do, I think. I think we're afraid of maybe making changes because we're feeling too old or mature, or we don't have the skills. But I feel that that's changing, and a lot of women are embracing change, and making their lives just magical is the word I want to
It's such a
use.
relief in a way, like it has been for me, to kind of come out of the doubt and the uncertainty and the low self-esteem and, terrible boundaries of the earlier stages of my life as a woman, And I just read the 8 pillars you have of what it means to be an empress, and I was kind of like, I was really feeling it in my bones,
Oh,
what a relief it is to be living from a place of sort of more settled, less anxious, more powerful. And I'm wondering if you can share a little bit about the 8 pillars, because I just thought it was, when I read it, I was like, yeah, baby, that's it.
oh, thank you. Yeah. So um, the first one is about sovereignty and personal power, and really owning who you are, and part of that is being authentic, right? Just defining what makes you unique, what's your true essence, and owning that. And then there's transformation and reinvention. We've talked about that. We said, people maybe want to try something different, or don't feel that what they're doing now is in alignment with what their values are. So me becoming a yoga teacher at the age of 55 was huge for
Mhm.
me, but it was something that was my calling and lit me up, and it has changed me in a lot of ways, and it opened up a lot of doors. And I think that's important that women honor that they at least try something, and not be afraid to do that. And there's always the self-care and nurturing, which as women, as moms, as even if we have elderly that we're taking care of, we always put everyone else first. It's so important to return to the self. I'm using that term a lot. And that self care is not just going in to get your nails done, it's about having self compassion, self reflection when things aren't going well, finding a sacred space in your house that I like to call a throne, where you can just sit there and have your tea and your journaling and tell people just kind of hang out somewhere else because this is my space. And then you can listen to what's going on inside because you don't have all that external noise happening. And then you have your inner throne energy, which guides me to our next pillar, which is that intuitive wisdom, which we all have, but sometimes we don't tap into. And when we're dealing with the chaos of day to day living, which I know you feel it and we all feel it,
Yeah.
we don't pause and we don't connect with that inner guidance. And these are where the most profound answers are to the questions we have. Instead of looking outside for questions or answers to our questions, we need to return to that intuitive guidance. And I know you feel strongly about that because you've written a lot of books about that and you teach about that as well. And then setting boundaries, you mentioned it, all our lives, we don't establish those boundaries. And maybe because we were never taught how to, I feel I never was.
Yeah.
People would say like, "Oh, you have to set boundaries," but what does that mean? And part of it is also like, if I set boundaries, will people like me? And maybe that's also a core wound that
Mm.
many women may have, and it could be from
Yeah.
conditioning. But it's so important to say, "This is my space," or "I don't like to be treated that way." And it may be uncomfortable, but it's important. It's important for our peace and our growth, and also to show that we value ourselves. Um, and that's important. And also protecting our energy, working with energy like you do and like I do. It's important to imagine that you have this energetic field around you protecting your energy, and that you feel safe, as well.
Mm.
And then, you know, when I think about the Empress, she's sitting on her throne and she's abundant and has her kingdom in front of her, but she's grateful for everything she has. And, gratitude gets tossed around a lot. And sometimes we forget to really sit down and feel grateful for everything, even the things that were challenging for us. But the things that were challenging for us may have been our greatest teachers. Like for me, I've had breast cancer and I've had premature twin babies. Now they're grown, and my mom passing early. And all these were some of my greatest life lessons. And
Yeah.
I'm grateful for each one of them now, right? In retrospect. And then there's always the forgiveness and healing. Part of writing my book, I've had to forgive a lot of things that created some of those deep core wounds. Um, and that's, sometimes hard to do, but part of it is also forgiving ourselves for things that maybe we didn't make the right choices. And so we need to also forgive ourselves. And that's a huge part of healing. And then the
Mhm.
last one, I feel that women need to support women. And what's wonderful is I'm seeing a lot of that. Women like yourself, working with others and supporting others in an environment that's open and honest. And I like to say in my book, you know, reach out to another empress and help her get onto her throne. And
Mhm.
the more we support ourselves, that's that whole uprising and that energy that we can collectively raise that vibration of that divine feminine energy that can make huge changes into the world. In the world, I feel.
I think so too. And I think this is sort of the time for the rising of the divine feminine. And let's talk about that a little bit. Like, what do we mean when we say divine feminine? I mean, I just assume everybody knows what that is, and maybe we don't. Like what does that mean to you, and how does each woman sort of embody that?
Well, I came from when I think about that, I think about growing up in a more male dominated society, right? So when I was in corporate, it was always male dominated. Even when women were given the opportunity to advance, we were always very competitive and we carried a lot of that masculine energy. So for me, how I see it is that women need to correct to that, reconnect to that divine feminine energy. And know that when they're sensitive and they're intuitive, that these are parts of themselves that should be honored and not hidden. And I think everyone has a piece of that divine feminine energy, even men do. So men reconnecting to that feminine side, to that intuition side, to that yin side, that nurturing side. And once we bring those and make those more available, um, and come from a place of that, I think that the energy will shift in the world, that we need to be less competitive, more accepting, more nurturing. When you see someone that is, let's say, suffering, you help them instead of turn the other way. I don't know if you want to add to that what you feel about that as well, as far as the raising that divine feminine energy.
I think it's a lot like about healing the wounded feminine, like places where as women we've been sort of systemically disempowered for like tens of thousands of years. Like and like the looking at that, we can think about like I grew up in the 60s and 70s. My mom was a women's liver, she was a hippie. And I remember going to like bra burning, things that my mom would do. She was a lot. My mom, she was a woman standing in her power,
Love that.
and I think in a way and she was also a therapist. So she was a great role model for me for like the work we have to do to heal the wounds, the generational wounds, the systemic wounds that I think women hold in a very specific way. We have a unique set of wounds that we have to deal with. And so I think it's about really looking at those things, working them through. My mom made things better, easier for me, not totally, but she did some really good work. And I hope I've done that for my daughter, so kind of seeing that like play out through the generations. And then I think like really thinking about what kind of power we hold is very different from the divine masculine power. And I think, we have both. Like I have divine masculine, divine feminine. So do you, like we all do. And just looking at and I love what you said, something about like helping people, when we're in the divine feminine, we are sort of, our hearts are open. We have with more compassion for the suffering of humanity. And it doesn't mean that we roll over and go into a powerless, because women can be really fierce, when it comes to protecting our loved ones. And sort of, I think it's really about sort of taking a stance for life force energy, for, um, fertility, like that. The Empress card in the tarot deck is,
Right.
really about fertility, about the being a steward of life force energy in general on the planet. And I guess that's what it means for me.
Yeah, and coming together as groups, I think creating more communities
Mm,
where women come together and I don't know, even just talk about overcoming some of their wounds, their core wounds, or working through them, or if you're a therapist or a coach, or helping other women and creating these environments where women feel safe, so that they can then work on these issues, overcome them, and move into a more place of empowerment, so that we can, you know, help others, just like this ripple effect, as I mentioned in my book. One
yeah.
small change can create a ripple effect across the universe.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So I feel really strongly about that. And one of the reasons why I do is because growing up, like I said, I never really had a female role model. I was always very competitive in the work environment. My mom passed early. So to want to create this environment, to want others to create these type of communities is important to me. And
Mm.
I think it'll make really great changes in the world.
Love to see you do some like book clubs,
Yeah.
for your book,
Yeah.
right?
That's what I'm working
So
on. Yeah.
love to see like a bunch of women sitting around together and reading your book and going through it together. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, actually, that happened recently up at a bookstore in Connecticut. Actually, a friend of mine
Mm.
who works there was able to create a little book club, and she said it was well received, and it made me so happy. And that's really what I would like to see. So I'm trying to manifest that in the
Yeah.
universe.
Yeah, here's to that, because that would be great. It's a great book for a book club. I really think it, would be super helpful and lovely for a book club to gather around.
Yeah.
And I know in your book you talk a lot about, so you give some really practical tools, because I think, we really need the practical, and I'm wondering if you could share some of those with us.
Well, the one that I love the most, and I talk about it a lot, is creating that sacred space where you can go to, because I raised twins, and as you know, when your kids are little, it's like chaos in the house, and you never have 5 minutes to yourself, not even to in the bathroom. And after many, many years of having that, I realized that I really want a space of my own. And you're seeing a lot of that now on social media. Women are creating like these little sheds that they go out to
Yeah.
so that they can disconnect. And
Yep.
even if you can't do that, just have a space in your home where you can sit down and read a book or listen to a podcast or just meditate. Um, have your crystals, have your special tea, and the more you go there, the more you're putting your energy and your intention behind that space, and it's yours, and it's a place that you can just, go and reflect. So I think that's a really important one as well. And energy protection is also another one. And I work in qigong. We call this the wei qi. It's that energetic shield around you, and you can do that through intention by imagining a white light or bubble or metal energy around you. Um, if you have Reiki, which a lot of people do now, it's more available. You can create a Reiki energetic shield around you, or you can do Qigong movements to create that. So I think having that protection around you is comforting to take care of your aura and your space is important. And I love my favorite are moon rituals. Every new moon, I write down my new moon wishes and I just do a little ceremony with a candle, and I do the same thing with a full moon where I release what I no longer want in
Mm.
my life. And I've done a lot of these moon rituals, and they're just comforting and beautiful. And these are just a few of the things that I write about in my book. But I think having something that makes you feel good, like a little ritual or a space to go to, is really important to have that.
That's beautiful. I love that. I love the new moon, full moon ritual. I should get back to that. I used to do them back in the day, and it's been a while since I've done that.
Yeah, it's so feminine, right? The moon
It is
is
so feminine.
feminine and nurturing,
Yeah.
and I've always been I think because I'm a Cancer rising, I realized recently somebody told me, "Well, you're ruled by the moon." I'm like, "Well, that makes total sense because I just go out there and start talking to the moon." I just love it, so
That's cool.
yeah.
And it's so easy to track, we can always
Yeah.
they have apps, they have, like, all kinds of things that will track the moon
Oh,
and
yeah, I
in
mean,
your
there's
calendar.
you sign up for an email and or something, and you'll get, all these regular rituals.
That's a great I love that. So, anything else you wanna share? Um, you know, uh, kind of a last parting, um, message for the folks that are listening to this?
Well, you know, I just want to talk about overall healing as a journey and that to always follow your intuition. I never knew what I was going to do. You know, I opened myself to possibilities. I trusted in the universe and I allowed it to guide me to teachers, to books, to studies, to places even to live that led me to where I am today. And I'm still open now to even receiving more of that energy and that guidance for the universe. So even when you feel alone out there, trust that, in the message and ask the universe or ask your guides to provide you with a message or to show you where you need to go and to trust that message and that guidance that you're feeling inside. I really think that that's important. There's so many people out there. There's a lot of offerings and a lot of books, but you are your own healer. You are your own guide, and trust that um, on your journey in life.
Thank you so much. We've been talking to Rose Wippich, the author of Empress Rising, Your Own Energy, Own Your Energy, Trust Your Wisdom, and Rewrite the Rules of Aging. Here's this gorgeous book. I really, really recommend if you find yourself, at that age, if you're a woman at that age, at that certain age, a woman of a certain age is what, my grandmother used to say. If you find yourself there, this is a beautiful resource for you. So, Rose, just let everybody know where they can find you, where they can find your book.
Sure. It's my website is rosewippich.com. There's links to the book there. It's also on Amazon, Barnes and Noble online as well. And I also have a podcast called Chat Off the Mat.
It's been so great to be with you, Rose. It's so amazing to see your work in the world
Thank
and
you.
to support your book. I really hope everyone who hears this and feels like they needs it runs right out and gets it and starts a book club. Let's do it.
Yay,
And,
let's do it.
and thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Lisa. It's been my pleasure as well.
And thanks all of you guys for tuning in. So happy to see you here, and that you're with us for this conversation. If you want to find me, you can find me at lisacampion.com. I work with emerging psychics, healers, and empaths who need a little help maybe stepping into their gifts, because, man, I think the world needs all the healers it can get. And that's what we're doing right here on the Miracle of Healing. We are healing the planet one person at a time right here on the Empower channel.